Right, we're up and running. Hello everyone, Lee Ashby here for Motocross and Speedway Memories. Just like to say a big thank you for the support to Simon Pardew of White Eagle Finance. They give quality financial advice for pensions, investments, mortgages and protection. Check the website at www.whiteeaglefinance.co.uk. Right then, I've got a beautiful Speedway interview for you this evening. I've got none other than Mr. Eastbourne Speedway himself, and a former Oxford Cheetah, and a former British Grand Prix winner, British Speedway legend himself, Martin Dugard. How's it going, Martin?
Yeah, good, thanks. And you?
Not bad, thank you. I really appreciate your time, mate, so thanks for coming on.
No worries.
We've just been discussing how many questions there were.
Well, there was a lot more than I expected, but there you go.
Well, you don't get these legends on every day, Martin, so you've got to make the most of it.
That's right.
That's it. Right, we'll crack on with the questions then. First one I got for you. How did you get into Speedway, and what is your earliest memory of the sport?
Obviously, with the family owning the stadium at Arlington, we went every week regardless. Sunday was Speedway Day. Saturday was get ready for Speedway Day.
Yeah.
And Monday was clean up after Speedway Day. So as kids, that's all we ever learnt was it was Speedway was Sundays, the weekend was Sundays, and the rest of the week was all Speedway. So we just, all three of us, me, my brother and my sister, we just was all sort of snowballed into it, and that's from the early age. So from roughly around about 4 or 5, I can remember just going to the stadium all the time.
I've got some real young pictures of you as well, because you started out very young at Speedway as well, didn't you?
Yeah, Alan Johns, he made me my first sort of bike. That's when I was about 4 years old, and then I rode that for a couple of years, and then later on we then had a junior track built at the stadium, and we progressed, me and my brother, along with others.
Brilliant. Next one I got for you. What riders did you look up to and idolise when you were young, and why? And did you ever get to race any of your heroes?
I would say Kelly Moran was one that we looked up to, because he even though we weren't really old enough to sort of be that interested in Speedway, but Kelly seemed to, when everybody else was doing their bikes and that at my dad's place or local to us, we always used to either go around, see Kelly, make sure Kelly was all right. Kelly was he wasn't much bigger than us as kids anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, we used to go around, play football. We used to go to the park with him, and he was just sort of like a big kid really. So Kelly was one of the ones that we sort of looked up to. Then obviously as I grew older, you get the Eastbourne then wasn't in the top league, and then it was like Gordon Kennett, Andy Buck, Keith Pritchard, just sort of the main ones when I came into racing really.
Knowing that you, many years later, you be the hero to everyone else.
Well, apparently so, but we'll see. For
sure, mate, for sure. Right, next one. Who were the toughest riders to compete with in the British League racing days, and why? Bit of a...
It depends if you take your home riders as well, when you race against each other. When I first moved up to Oxford, it was still a team sort of sport. And then as the years progressed, the sort of second, third year, it became very individual. But that's because the English boys were able to ride in Sweden, Poland, because Poland then opened up. Yeah. So all of a sudden you had team racing that sort of went into a little bit of an individual sport, even though you were sort of covered under the banner of team. But from outsiders, Hans was always hard to beat, regardless whether he was on your team or not. Sam Amalenko, he was another one that was very difficult. Tommy Knudsen, they was all very good around Cowley when I was there. Then obviously going to Swindon, you had Jimmy Nielsen, Peter Narleen, Andrew Silver. I think when I rode, I'm not saying when I rode in the day, back in the day, I think Speedway was harder then. And that's what I'm trying to explain to the people now. When we rode, it was hard. You had, or you could have had, 3 or 4 number ones that you could put into teams now in the team. And the only easy rides you would have got when you get against the reserves. But the way they change backwards and forwards, even sometimes you could end up with one of them you got to race against.
Yeah, it was pretty stacked for sure. Then.
Oh, it was. I think it was a lot harder then than it is now. But apparently when I rode, it was a lot harder 10 years before that. So maybe the whole thing's gone soft and We're not just sort of getting the speedway that we should have done.
Legendary times and memories, though, for sure. Them days.
That's right.
Proper legends, I call them. Next question I got there was there a certain bike or engine that you rode over the years that you had a bit of a favourite, and if so, can you remember what that was and years and stuff?
It's a tough one. I tried the Westlakes. I had a couple of good Westlakes when I first started that were ex-Kelly Moran ones.
Yeah.
Then we went on to the GMs during the GM period, the early ones when they kept blowing up, sort of changed to a PPT. There wasn't many of them around. I never ever went on to a Jawa, so I crossed that off my list. But I've got to say, the best engine I probably had was from I can't remember his name now. Blix. He did an engine for us.
Yeah.
He did 2 of them. It was maintained in the UK by Trevor Hedge, but yeah, that was probably the best 2 engines I ever had.
When you was at Eastbourne, obviously you were number 1 for many, many years. Did you have a specific engine for the track? I know it's quite a trick track as well.
Not really. I had an engine. If it went good around Eastbourne, it would go good on the majority of other places in the UK. There might be 1 or 2 it's not very good at. Peterborough, Sheffield, but I wasn't particularly good around them anyway, so I could blame it on anything but myself. But no, I've got to say, I normally just tended to have 1 really good engine for Eastbourne, and that tended to go to, well, it used to go good around Reading, Wolverhampton, the smaller places, and that in that league there wasn't that many big tracks apart from Swindon.
Yeah. So would you change an engine to go to Swindon, or would you just change settings?
I just changed bikes. Just change bikes. By the end of the year, my second bike looked like brand new.
Yeah, didn't get to use it that much. All right, cool. The next one I got for you. What were your favourite tracks in the British League and why? And anywhere else in the world and why?
In the UK, Oxford, Eastbourne were my favourites because I found them easy. Followed probably by the biggest track I probably had good meetings on was Swindon. Always seemed to have a good meeting around there. Hated Sheffield, Peterborough. Kings Lynn was very good, but that was the ones that I mainly sort of bounced around in the league when I was there. Just trying to think, we went to Berwick, but that was the loft visit. It was out sticks. That was quite a small track, but mainly the bigger ones I sort of steered clear of. But I did have a few good meetings on the bigger tracks. Kumla in Sweden, World Team Cup, I had a good meeting then. Yeah. So yeah, it's the bigger ones I avoided.
Because didn't they make a change when you were still at Eastbourne? When they changed the track, they brought their first corner in a little bit, didn't they? And sort of cut that bit off.
Yeah, it was. We looked at it a long time ago, and it was very narrow going in. Yeah. So we decided to change the shape of the track, and it stayed there ever since. So whether it produces any better racing, no one tends to know. But that was exactly the same sort of time as Voyens tried it as well. But they changed it by using boards and a wooden temporary infield. Okay. But we just concreted it all in and left it as it was. And if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it was tough.
Did you like that change? And did that help you with the track advantage? Or
it helped everyone really in the Eastbourne team, and anybody that come to Eastbourne was a little bit fearless of it. But if you come to Eastbourne now, because the riders go and ride at lots of other places around the world, the majority of people turn up and they clock it straight away, and it makes no difference to them.
Okay, cool. Right, we covered the tracks you didn't get on with as well. Next one I got was, what were your favourite? Did you have a favourite set of leathers or Kevlars that you wore during your racing days that you particularly liked? Or
I always liked to sort of copy what Sean Moran had when he had the black and yellow ones with a few checkers on. I tried to explain what I liked to the leather company, Churchill Leathers at that time.
Okay.
They came back with a set of blue and white ones that looked nothing like the ones I liked, but they were the heaviest set of leathers I'd ever put on.
Really?
So after that year, we went for a super light set, which was like a grey set, a complete grey leather all over, like a silver one. It was, it had pinholes all the way up the front. and that's apparently what they use for road racing to let the air pass in and out.
Oh, right, okay.
So I had a silver pair and a black pair, and I've got to say they were both sort of my favourite Kevlar, and that would have been sort of 88, 89.
Very nice. I remember you then. Did you have any superstitions or anything you had to specifically do on race days?
No, none. If it was going to happen, it was going to happen. If it didn't happen. I guess most people have like a superstition. They got to do this and that. It wasn't like that. As long as I was at the track on time, that was my main one really. But
I think that's definitely a good thing. Definitely a good thing because I see a lot of the guys get quite mentally hung up on a lot of things. Don't it? It must be quite tiring at times, I'd imagine.
Yeah, Chris Louis used to go through with touching his crash helmet, making sure his cutout was in, making sure the fuel was on. Yeah. 3 or 4 times. To me, if you put your stuff on once, that's it. It's there. It's unless you got a problem. But I can't see all that sort of stuff. Like you say, it's quite tiring just to worry about it. Yeah,
for sure. So it's a good thing not to do that. Next one, you won the British Under-21 title. I think it was at 89.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you remember about that, and what did that mean to you at the time?
It was a bit strange because obviously I won at Eastbourne. To me, it was like riding in the backyard, really.
Yeah.
I was penciled in to sort of win it anyway. That doesn't always necessarily go to plan, but no, it was just another meeting. It just happened. It's one of those things. If it happens for a reason, it just happens. And went through the whole day, not a problem. And that was it really. And was within a half hour we was home. So it was just another Speedway meeting for me.
Yeah, that's good. Next one I got. You won the British League with the Oxford Cheetahs, I remember. Did you enjoy your time there? And what do you remember about winning the league, etc. there?
It seemed a bit strange because the first year I rode at Eastbourne in 85, we won the Knockout Cup. 86, we won the Knockout Cup, and 87. So that was 3 trophies that we won.
Yep.
I think we also won the league at Eastbourne as well in those 2 seasons.
Oh, right, okay.
I think so.
I didn't know that, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously then when I went to Oxford and then we won the league again twice and the Knockout Cup, it was like, well, that just seemed normal. And then coming from Oxford, going back to Eastbourne and then not winning anything for another few years. And I think it was 2000 we won the league, so I think we did a year. We might have even won the Knockout Cup in 1990 or 91. So it was as if all of a sudden that's what happens every year. You win it. But looking at it now, it seems what we did during those times with Oxford and Eastbourne, winning what we did was quite an achievement. But when you're riding all the time and not really experiencing the loss as it was, it was only years later when we rode in the National League with Eastbourne and we come quite close to winning the league twice, and then not. It was a bit of a stab in the back because obviously your brain thinks, well, actually, we should win this, but if it doesn't happen, it's quite a big pill to swallow. Yeah.
You almost get used to the winning feeling.
That's right.
Right, okay, next one I got. What riders were your favourite to team ride with over the years and why?
Normally it was Hans Nielsen. He was always good. That's why he's a professor, and bumped into him not so long ago when we was in Denmark, and with Hans we was just talking about Speedway the old days, as you do. And just come up to one of the races and Hans stands on the rostrum. Obviously he goes for the #1 spot so he can see everybody. I stand on the 2nd or 3rd just so I can see over people in front of me. And he just looked down and said, Martin, it was like all the last time we went, I was always the best. So you can see that Hans had never forgot. But he was fantastic as a team person and as a team rider. So he always sort of looked out for you if you're on his side.
What about Eastbourne? Did you have a favourite one to team ride at Eastbourne?
Not really. I think anybody else, if you need the points, I was always a very good team player. If you need the points, it was easier to team ride someone than it was just sort of disappear in the distance and pick up 3 points.
Yep, okay. What British tracks and venues had the best and worst changing rooms?
Eastbourne's probably the worst.
How was it?
It's just a square room. Very dated. No, hardly any light in there at all. It's something out the 40s. Bellevue, when I've been up there recently, they're the best.
Yeah,
They're all up to they're all up to date. Fantastic changing rooms, and Bradford was very good. But I suppose when you've got clubs that use the changing room for hockey, rugby, and stuff like that, they're always going to be to a much better standard than they are of Dirty Old Speedway racing. So I say Eastbourne's probably the worst one. Buxton isn't much better.
Did you never put any pressure on getting them sorted out at Eastbourne?
We're always everybody moaned to my dad, but it was, well, if you don't like it, you can go and change in your van. But it was unfortunate. It was just one of those things. It was probably not the best.
Yeah, okay. Right, next one I got. Your dad must have been a massive influence on your career running Eastbourne Speedway, as we all know, for many years. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the issue we had really was that my dad was very much a team player, and everybody was very equal. If I wanted to go and ride abroad, that didn't come to his plans because we was a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Saturday night club meant that getting somewhere to Poland, Germany, or etc. was very difficult. So it was one of those sort of things. He wanted me to do well, but actually not at his cost. His team always come first. And when I then went to Oxford, it made life a little bit easier. But then you had other Saturday night clubs within the league. So it was quite hard to get abroad on the continent when you had only a night to get there. And obviously when you're down in the south of Germany, you're finishing Oxford probably around about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, down to a ferry, arriving at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you had an 8 or 10-hour drive the next day. So, or you do it the other way around, you send all your good stuff off out there first, and then you fly. So, but going back to my dad, I think because of his interest in his team, my international career never fitted, but I was quite happy with that.
Fair enough. That's interesting. Didn't know that. Next one. What was your most memorable race or meeting that still sticks in your memory today?
Knockout Cup 85, 86 or 86, 87 against Mildenhall. We wasn't expected to win as a club. We had a big turnout. I suppose I was very young at that stage, probably like 17, 18, and that was probably the best meeting I remember. Yeah. Obviously winning the Grand Prix was another one, but wasn't so eager with that one, if you know what I mean. That sort of rolled into place. I just rode the bike and that come up, but with the Knockout Cup, we were underdogs all the way through, and they sort of stick with me more than anything. And I suppose because scored a lot of points and was pleased with that. But the Grand Prix is another one that sort of just tended to happen as if it was meant to happen. So yeah, I would say Mildenhall for me.
Cool. Who were your closest friends during your Speedway career, and how easy was it to block out the friendship once the tapes went up?
I don't think you ever have friends in Speedway. I would say most of the team were all very friendly towards us. Dean Barker was very good. Yeah. I think all the Eastbourne team were my friends during that time, and obviously when we went to Oxford, Marvin Cox, Simon Wigg, but you could never sort of really call them as your friend because obviously they rode against you as well in other teams. Yeah. So I think the real friends are the ones from Eastbourne really, and obviously going back there, it sort of clicked again, and knowing everybody in the area sort of helped as well.
I'm hoping to speak to Dean as well, so that'll be good.
Oh, that's just mention me.
Yeah, I've tried to get hold of Mr. Norris as well. I did speak to him on Facebook, but he's not too keen with that at the minute.
No, I didn't realise until the other day when Dave won the Top Eagle or whatever he won, that he had an issue with anybody at the stadium or the management in the past. So I was totally unaware of that It was something to do with Dean's testimonial and his testimonial and Dean being the first pick. So I don't know. So I can understand where David's coming from, but I suppose 20 years ago is quite a long time to hold a grudge.
Yeah, I'd like to think that he would let that go and not hold a grudge against Speedway and all that, and then hopefully get him on at some point. He's a hell of a character, so it'd be good to get him on.
He is funny.
Yeah, he had a great chat. He's a really nice bloke. Right, next one I got. How important was it to have a mechanic you really trust and knows you well? And what mechanics did you get on with best over the years, and why?
I didn't really have that many mechanics. I had a few people during the early part of my career. I did all my bikes myself. I wasn't able to drive, so I just had to get the bike ready and put it on the car, and away we would go with my dad.
Yeah.
Then I had a guy named Peter Clegg when I was at Oxford. He helped for a season and a bit. He was very good. He was from up Manchester way. Who else was there? Oh, and Colin Davis. I bumped into Colin, didn't know much about him. Found out later on that actually he knew more about me and everything about Speedway. That he played the silly one that he didn't know what anything was.
All right.
And yeah, we got on great, and he helped me for many years. Was with me at the Grand Prix, and he only lives about 5 or 6 miles from me. Oh, right. So we bump into each other quite a lot. So yeah, I would say Colin was the most trusted one with me.
Okay, that's nice. Right, next one. Do you have any regrets from your Speedway career at all? Was there any meetings, especially you felt you should have done one or done better? Or was there even a team or something you was involved in that you wish you hadn't or something?
Looking back, I have to say probably I retired too early. But that was my choice at the time. Probably looking at the way Speedway is run now, I would change everything I do or I did to make myself fit in more at Speedway. Obviously, I always tried my hardest, but there was always that little bit where I could have tried a little bit harder. So it's a bit like my school report, this is. Yeah. Maybe I should have put myself out there on the continental front. Had a couple of good meetings abroad, but it wasn't really enough to warrant me going abroad as I did. I could probably try a little bit harder, really. But I was quite happy in my comfort zone and doing what I needed to do. So I never sort of expressed myself that way.
Fair enough. Okay. Can you tell us a funny story from your racing day memories?
I suppose I treated everything as a bit funny. You wouldn't find me being that serious, really. I always remember being in Poland with Morten Andersen. We had all sort of driven through the night with the Oxford team and bits and pieces to find that there's this very young sort of Danish rider of Hans Nielsen standing at the hotel full of smiles. He had flown there while we had driven by van. And Hans just sort of give us one or two sort of words that were a bit of just taking the mickey out of us, really. So when he went to bed, like nice and early, he was ready and gone. I give him an early morning phone call from reception saying that I had to be up and out at 4 a.m. for the airport. So to this day, Hans still finds it a little bit funny, but I don't think he did at the time.
No, probably not. Oh, I love it. I knew he'd say he'd gone to bed early.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Complete professional, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Right, next one I got. I remember that mad night at, you're going to remember this straight away since I mentioned it, at Eastbourne, when you got caught up on the track with Stefan Andersen.
Yep.
Didn't I'm sure you got some quite bad injuries from that as well, wasn't it? Hip ribs and...
I had a broken pelvis, dislocated my thumb, and obviously took a bang to the head. Don't remember anything about the night at all. Don't remember the day before. Don't remember the day after. It was about 3 days later that it was sort of all coming round a bit. So obviously I had quite a big bang to the head. Yeah, that's all I remember. I've seen it on TV.
That's what I was about to ask.
I've looked at it on TV. Obviously, totally in the wrong. Should never have happened. And I apologise to Stefan as well. and that. But it's one of those things that's at that particular time, my body was saying he caused that problem, and that's the way I exploded. So should never have happened, and to this day, I'm totally responsible for it.
Because considering like how injured you were as well, obviously you were going on adrenaline of probably being angry at the time, but
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what the cause was, but it's fight or flight, I think they call it, with the adrenaline in the body. But obviously, I chose to fight.
Hell of a punch though, by the way.
Well, yeah, thank you very much.
put Boyce's to Gollum's a bit to shame, to be fair.
Well, yeah, but Gollum hit him in the face square on, didn't he? With So, it was one of those things. Unfortunately for me, at that particular time, it was on TV. Luckily for me, they find me there and then on the night. So because I paid, just bear with me. In Barbertal.
No worries.
Sorry, I've lost the car keys. I paid the fine on the night, or the club paid the fine for me and deducted it, and that was where all the rules changed from there onwards. That's why they were able to, if anybody else did it, they had to wait and they couldn't sort of pay and get their way out of it. But for me, at that particular time, I was banned from the meeting, £250 fine, and as far as they're concerned, that was the end of it. But obviously, it went a little bit further. We went to a full tribunal at the ACU, which, funny enough, my solicitor managed to get me off that because I couldn't be done for double jeopardy because I'd already been done once and paid the fine, so they couldn't do me again.
Oh, that's good.
So that was good for me. But unfortunately for my solicitor, he went a little step too far, and he got the cost paid by them as well.
Oh, bloody hell.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a shock for me. But that was obviously totally my fault. And me and Steph, whenever we see each other now, we sort of have a little laugh about it.
Because obviously, like, the fact that it was on the Sky Sports Live, and I remember it wasn't all that long we'd been on the Sky Sports, and of course, with fans and everyone, it almost like made it even more popular because that happened and things like that, and the Gollum thing, and
the Friday night fight.
People love it. Yeah, people love it.
Yeah, I think that my thing is now with Speedway is it is too clean. The other day when Madsen rubbed up Doyley, yes, it was a bit hard, but he didn't put him on the floor and run him along the fence. Freddie Lindgren's been doing it to others. Nicky Pedersen done it. Sam Amalenko used to do it. Hans Nielsen used to do it. Gunderson. Greg Hancock, he was another one, used to smile, just run you along the fence. They were just blocking you. Now it's looked causes, what a big hazard that was. You could have hurt him. But when I rode, it was, you did hurt him when you knocked him off. And I think that's the difference. I think Speedway is such a fast sport now. When you rub someone, they tend to get off it because that's the only way they can kill their speed. Yeah,
I don't know if you've noticed, like, say when the GP and some riders have a little bit of a rub up or whatever, and then you wanna see what they, them coming together at the end or whatever, and they like pan into the crowd and all that. And you're doing that now.
Yeah, I think for some reason, like I know Doyley had a moan at Madsen the other day saying that he didn't want to talk about it. Oh right, okay. With a few words in between.
Yeah, I saw that.
But I think the problem being is they should have that. The issue being is they tried to make the sport too clean, and I think it's lost all the characters in the sport. And I think that is a big thing that to bring Speedway back up, you've got to have these characters that people don't like. But McGregor's one, isn't he? You've got Tyson Fury. Yeah. Like you've got all these big names that are big characters, but you can't get the Speedway people to see, or the speed riders to come across like that.
Yeah, it's a catch-22 as well, isn't it? You have people complaining and moaning, and they swore and this and that. It's like social media's this day. Everything's on in 10 seconds after it's happened, and everyone's making up their own minds and opinions. And
unfortunately, people have their own minds, and they will make up their own minds, but until they actually see it for real, it's a different story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, and another thing I was going to say as well, because at the time I'm sure he was when he Eastbourne asset.
Who's that? Stefan?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Did that all get sorted out?
Well, yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't
At the time, I mean. Yeah.
Well, at the time, it was a bit hectic, got to say.
Yeah.
Stefan was being used by Mike Weston, I think it was, from Kingsley or Ipswich at that time.
Yeah.
And Mike was saying, "Oh, don't say you're injured." Obviously, Stefan was hurt, so we can't take that away from him. But he was turning around saying, "Oh, tell him you're really hurt. You can't ride in Poland. You can't ride in Sweden." Say he was knocked out, which Stefan played along with. Yeah, no problem at all. I'm not sure if anybody's aware of what happened. My solicitor then turned around and said, Stefan then tried to sue us for obviously loss of earnings.
Okay. Yeah.
So my solicitor turned around and said, yeah, that's fine. Just send us in what you think you would have earned in Poland and whatever. So Stefan Baxter think across what his earnings were. So my solicitor turned around and said to him, that's fine. Have you paid the VAT and the tax? Have you paid the tax on this that you would have earned? And we class this as blackmail. Never heard anything else from that. So that's how I got away with that one, whether it was right or wrong. Yeah. I think people being pushed into the realms of what they shouldn't really do. And I think Stefan was still owned by Eastbourne. He had lived with me previously for a year and a half at my house. So we got on great. It was just unfortunate. It was just one of those things.
Yeah, it just happened to be there and it was in.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah. Okay, next one. You won a lot as a team rider and as an individual. Did you prefer to be part of a team, or did you like to ride as an individual, or did you like both as much? Or
I prefer to ride as a team. Individuals, I wasn't really built for them.
Yeah.
But team racing, I loved, and I think. But now everything has become an individual. No matter what they say is, oh, it is team racing and this is Wolverhampton or this is Glasgow. All those people, they ride against each other one night, race as a team the next night, ride against each other another night, then another team. It has become very much an individual with a team sort of cover all over it. But I think that's the issue. For me, I like team racing because I felt at that time it was team.
Yeah, it's very team fired then. Right, next one I got. Personally, as obviously a Swindon Robins fan, my dad and uncle both raced for them. Did you ever nearly sign for the Robins at all, and anyone else in the British League that you nearly signed for?
Do you want me to upset you? No. No, not really.
No.
When I was at Eastbourne, the next step up was Oxford. Only for the fact that it was very similar sort of shaped track to what Eastbourne was.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that, and I knew that when I went to Oxford, Andrew Silver had gone to Swindon. So we sort of, from the 1 and 2 in the National League as we were at the time, we'd gone to opposite tracks.
Yeah.
But that didn't worry us, and I've got to say that it made no difference to our careers. Andrew is Andrew, and I am what I am.
Yeah.
So, but I think looking back now, if the opportunity had come up and I was a bit more realistic to what I wanted, I should have probably gone to a bigger track, whether it was Swindon or someone. But Swindon would have been the biggest track closest to me.
So did you ever get any other offers from any other teams, or did they just do that? Your dad's there, there's no point even asking, or?
I was never asked.
You was never asked the question?
No. So I don't know who. I don't think there was that many people that sort of approached my dad, and if there was, I never got told about it.
Okay, fair enough. What do you personally yourself feel were your best achievements in Speedway, and why?
I suppose I was always good at team Speedway. I always helped within the team, and that's probably my better side of me. I think when we won anything with Eastbourne, Oxford, whoever it was because we wanted to win it, and we put as much effort in as we can to win it. I think everything that Oxford did. Unfortunately, when it closed, that was the end until it came back. But for the dormant period it was, then obviously I went back to Eastbourne. So I hadn't been to that many clubs, not like the riders you see now that have had maybe 6 or 7 clubs. I just had the 2. I was at Eastbourne or Oxford, and that was it.
Yeah. Okay, that nicely onto this one. You raced obviously for Oxford and Eastbourne. Did you particularly enjoy one more than the other, or you enjoyed them both the same?
I suppose they were both the same, really.
Successful at both. So.
Yeah, we won stuff with both. The only thing was, when I was at Oxford, I was always second best to Hans Nielsen, which I felt quite happy with, because that was a lot of pressure off me. When I went to Eastbourne, I was the one who had all the pressure. Which people say, oh, you not really. There was all these others, but when you are number one and people are pointing the finger at you, it is a little bit different. And I've got to say, I think that's where Hans was very good at Oxford. He never sort of let that sort of get to him.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you think of Eastbourne, you'd think of you. You'd be the first name to mention. So that definitely.
That's good news.
Yeah, for sure. I think you've got to be the best Eastbourne rider of all time, surely.
I would imagine the amount of time I've been there and done all the laps around there, I would like to think that I was in the top half. But they had a poll the other day where David Norris come top.
So, that's very interesting.
Or maybe it's fixed. No, I don't know. I think the thing was with David, and that he was always a people's person.
Yeah.
As you said before, he has a lot of character. He is very funny. With me, people to think that I'm very serious and that's not really the real me.
No.
But I suppose Speedway is part of it, and talking to others is part of it. And I never used to talking to others. I was very happy with just my own little bubble that I used to live in.
I think if we were on here now with David, I'm pretty sure he would say that you were the number one of all time at Eastbourne.
Well, I know where he lives, so he would do.
Especially after he's seen that on Sky.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Next one. Which riders would you say? Was there any other riders that you didn't used to get on with? Like you dislike racing against them, or was there any guys you used to always seem to run into all the time, or not? Literally.
They're not really,
No.
because it's like everything. You can't be mad at someone one day and then be in your team the next day.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah.
So you tend to learn to shut your mouth and go, okay, we'll save it for another time.
Yeah.
No, not really. Obviously, the Danes were always very hard, along with the Swedes. But you just didn't know when you was going to bump into them again. That's the thing. So it was better just to shut up or sort it out there and then. But no, I suppose everybody, if you're a top speedway rider, you've got to be a bit hard anyway.
Have some edge. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was the issue. It's more important now to be quiet at the right time, smile, and walk away from it, no matter how much it hurts.
Not easy though.
No, that is harder than actually riding.
Yeah, but just try and walk away. Yeah. Right. Okay. What would you say if you had to say the best 3 riders that you ever competed against in your career? Who would you say they were and why?
Wow, that's well, Hans would be one of them.
Yeah.
I would say I would like to have sort of ridden against Sean Moran in his day and when I was at my best.
Yeah,
that would be a good one. And I would imagine probably Sam Amalenko. Sam was always, even though with Sam you never knew what you was going to get, he was always going to be on your exhaust pipe regardless, and he would never ever give up until the checkered flag. Like we've had many meetings where me and Sam have run into each other and crashed, but he's never actually had a big moan at me. The majority of the time, yes, it's my fault, and some of the time it's been Sam's. But we've never had that opportunity where we let it get any further than that. So I would say, Sam, Hans, and Sean, really.
Yeah, 3 classy riders for sure. If you could give good advice to any youngster out there that wants to be a pro speedway rider, what would it be?
Looking the way Speedway is now, they've made it into a very professional sport. As in, back in the day when I rode and I see hands running up the pit, skipping up and down, you think, what is he doing?
Yeah.
But you can see why he's doing it, and they've made that more aware now to us as English people, or English riders, should I say. Fitness is key. In my day, it wouldn't worry me if I sat there and ate a bar of chocolate. It didn't sort of worry me, but I think now the riders have to be more on their game. If you're going to swim 100 lengths or run 100 laps, someone will do 101 or 110. Yeah. So you have to be right on the edge of everything all the time. And I think that is the big key. Your equipment, you can go and buy the same engine from Peter Johns as you could for Hans Nielsen, Sam Emelianenko, all those riders. They can go and buy that same engine, but if it's pulling 3 stone more because you're a heavy rider, that's where the problem is. And I think it is now down to complete fitness and organisation. That is more to it than anything.
They have like mental coaches and everything now, don't they? It's literally everything, psychology, all sorts.
Yeah, and which is good, but I think that's where it's stepped up again. The Speedway has gone to another level, but does it need that? That's the problem. Is it going the same way as Formula One? Is it going the same way as other sports? Do you really need to have all that? Because at some stage, it's going to cost someone, whether it's the rider, who will then want his money from the promoter, who want his money back from the fans.
Yeah, adding to the expense.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Okay. What other sports do you enjoy watching?
Oh, that's a tough one. I quite like boxing. Only the sort of top fights. Formula One now and then. I've just sort of started watching the Polish Speedway and the Swedish Speedway, only for the fact that when Tom Brennan was hurt, that Ty Wolfen didn't look after him. So now sort of following what Ty's doing. But I think the problem being is, since I walked away from the sport, when I stopped riding, I didn't really follow it at all. I followed sort of what all the top people were doing, not to a great degree. If Greg won a Grand Prix, Greg won a Grand Prix. It wasn't excitement for me. But now, obviously, I'm sort of moving in a different circle. We're getting to somewhere where actually I'm starting to get back into it a little bit.
Do you generally watch the GPs now, or have you been? Or
I have done. I have done with all the bits and pieces that's going on with the new tyres and stuff like that, but not really following it. I don't know. I know Freddie's top of the leaderboard, and that's all I know. I don't know where everybody else is.
Yeah.
So I follow it to a smaller degree.
What about the actual league racing, the British League? Well, obviously not at the moment, but
not really. I couldn't even tell you. Some of the riders don't even know who they are, because I'm in completely the wrong era as it was. I've been and gone. New people have come in and gone, and now we're on to the second or third generation of that rider. When we was in Denmark the other day, one of the Danish fathers come up to me and said, "Oh, do you remember me?" I'm like, "No, I have to be honest." And he said, "I used to mechanic for Kelvin Tatum." Still didn't have a clue who he was, and his son was riding.
Yeah.
So, we've done a full circle and a little bit more.
Yeah, a few generations. Okay. So you were chairman of Eastbourne Speedway at one point. What did that involve for you, and did you enjoy that side of things? And how comes you're not involved with Eastbourne now? And what were the reasons and stuff?
Chairman was when my dad turned around and said, "Look, we're not going to run Speedway at A level. Would you like to take it over the National League?" So we sort of, me and my son Connor said, "Yeah, we would." So we decided that that's what he was going to do. Then my partner Sarah was involved with sort of doing all the paperwork and bits and pieces. So we took it over as a fun thing, not to make any money, just to sort of keep the Speedway going, because we didn't know how long it would be before my dad decided that he might run again.
Yeah, okay.
So obviously they put me as chairman for the National League. We went out, I think we come second in the league one year, second in the league second year, and then won it in the third. But we won Knockout Cup 4 years in a row. So we did really well as that club. But I think that was because we managed to bring everybody back into a team, and build everybody up rather than just have the one or two individual top riders, and then the others were just sort of loose but good riders. But we made everybody feel as if they were, when they come and rode for us, they were part of the team.
Yeah.
And I think that's what got us through where we were. And then obviously I stepped down. Ian Jordan wanted to take it to another level. We'd gone as far as we could have in the National League. So we had won the Knockout Cup four years in a row. I think we were the only club to do that. Won the league. So yeah, it was and runner up twice.
Did you enjoy that side? Did you enjoy that side of it?
I loved it.
Did you?
Yeah, I like helping the kids, and obviously we was aware that a lot of the problems that come from the National League were bike problems. I'm very good with the bikes. I know I can see a problem happening before it happens, and we just kept on them all year. And I think that's why we was where we were, because we didn't have that many breakdowns.
Yeah.
But that was, for me, that was the pinnacle of it. It was just turn around after my dad died. We went and won the league, and I think we'd gone as far as we could go.
So the reason was because someone wanted to take it on higher again, or? Yeah,
we got as far as we wanted to. Ian Jordan come along, and he was interested in taking it up to the next level. Yeah. We wasn't interested in that, because we knew with Speedway how much money you lose. So we weren't interested in that, and I think that's where we sort of decided we had enough then. So I stepped down as chairman. Ian took over, and I went on to run the stadium.
Do you still watch Eastbourne? Go to Eastbourne?
I was there every meeting last year, but the issue being is obviously with COVID this year there hasn't been much Speedway, so yeah, we sort of, like everybody else, have taken a step back from it all. Yeah,
bit of a nightmare this year so far.
It has been.
Let's hope it doesn't crack on into next year either.
Well, let's see what brings first.
Yeah. Okay, right, next one I got. You amazingly obviously won the British GP at Coventry as a wild card. What do you remember about that night, and what did that actually mean to you?
I don't remember that much about it.
Oh, yeah.
It was like slow motion the whole night. Yeah, even now, it's like slow motion. I've watched it on TV.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
I can remember the last ride. Yeah. I offered Mark Loran, because obviously Mark was due to be world champion if he had won that meeting. Walking up to the start gate, I always remember offering Mark what gate he wanted, because he was second choice of that. Yep. And he said, no, you just take what you want. So okay, well, I thought I'd offer it to you, and he was like, no. So that's, even to the last ride, I was more thinking about others than myself.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously made a good gate, and away it went. But it was one of those days that you knew something was like that was going to happen. You didn't know exactly what was going to happen. It was very, it was a complete day of slow motion. And when we got home, like I think it was 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, I can't remember going to the press conference afterwards. I just can't remember any of it. It's just like it's completely disappeared.
Yeah.
So, because to me it was all new. I hadn't been in that time before. I hadn't realised what it meant to win the Grand Prix. I'd never sort of really thought that I could win this.
Yeah.
But as it clicked through, the meeting went on, I'm thinking, well, we were so sort of disorganised to get as far as we had.
Yeah.
I had to borrow a wheel from Tom Wiltshire through Marvin Cox to use at the final.
Oh, right.
So, because obviously we didn't think, we're never going to get that far. We'll be there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Everybody kept putting new tyres in, another new tyre.
Yeah.
Well, we've had 7 races now.
Yeah.
So, and I'd only taken enough wheels to do 6.
Yeah.
So, it was one of those nights. Now, when you look back at it, you think, for some reason, that's going to happen. And I'm always a great believer, if you just carry on, it will happen for whatever reason. But to remember anything about it on the day is complete mystery.
Well, it's, like you said, it was an amazing achievement because you think of all the British guys that have tried to win GPs or not even got anywhere near winning a GP, bar obviously Chris Harris.
Yeah.
It was a major thing.
That's right.
You
But
didn't even realise it, really. Yeah.
But and I've got to say there hasn't been that many that have been a wild card and done it. I know
That's for sure.
Mark did it, didn't he? Mark Loran did it in Sweden, and I think Hans Andersen was the only one to win his at that time.
Yeah,
so it would be good, and like even now when you look at the Grand Prix now and you see the reserves that come in. If I sat there and saw Martin Dugard roll up to the tapes, I'd just roll my arms back and go, he ain't going to do nothing.
Yeah.
I suppose that was the problem. A lot of people expect that. But I had been to Coventry the week before and guested. I think I guested for either Wolverhampton or Coventry. It was either replacing one of the Carlson boys or Billy or Greg. And I had 11 out of 12 points that night. So I was quite happy my bikes are set up. That's why I never practiced.
Yeah.
Because I'd been there a week before, just exactly as the track was. I went up there the night in that day when I won the Grand Prix. The rules were you had to go and sign in. So I had to drive from Brighton to Coventry, sign in to say that I was there. Then I went all the way back to Oxford to help Brent Collier because he was riding against Young Australia v Young England. Back down to Brighton to drop Brent off and all his equipment, and then load all my stuff up to go back up to Coventry.
Bloody hell.
So I'd done a few miles before I didn't go.
Bloody hell. So you didn't even sort of believe in it really until sort of probably halfway through the meeting thinking,
well,
this is flowing nicely.
Yeah, I kept thinking, right, we'll cross this race off, and we kept getting further and further and further down the field. I'm thinking, oh, there's less and less people here, and watching people wheel all their stuff out, I'm thinking, doing all right.
Yeah.
So, but in the end, I was walking around the pits thinking, there isn't many left in here now.
Yeah, it's coming down to crunch.
That's right.
Yeah, fair play. It was really good. I remember watching it. So your son Kelsey races as well.
Yep.
What's that like for you, and how involved are you with him from the father point of view?
Well, we got a bit of a mixed sort of setup. Obviously, I've got a stepson with Tom Brennan.
Yep.
He rides. Kelsey rides. Connor tried it, didn't like it, but he now makes the suits.
Right,
so we're still all fingers in all pies.
Yeah.
I help Connor make his suits with him. Whenever we got one or two problems, we got a few machines that need repairing and bits and pieces, which I help him with. Kelsey is sort of kicking around the National League. He wants to do it, but he's not brave enough to do it. And then I've got Tom, who's the other hand. He's brave, but he's not quite ready when he wants to be brave. Yeah. But it will all drop into place for all three of them. Mm-hmm. So, but as long as I can help them, I will.
So you must be obviously using your experience. Obviously, you're good with the bikes now, so that must be a big help for them.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time in the workshop, a lot more time now than I used to. Obviously, Kelsey is one of the others. He when he rides, he just sort of rides. There's not enough money in it for him to put money into his equipment, but he begs, steals, and borrows off everyone to get his bike right. Tom's the complete opposite. All his stuff is immaculate. He buys it all himself through his sponsors, and it's like chalk and cheese when you look at their bike. One is a nice bike, one isn't nice. But all the stuff that comes off the bike's produced by Connor with all his bike covers and that. So we've got everything going on in the house.
Okay, because I only got a couple left for you, but that was one of them. Was what were you actually been doing yourself lately, and since you retired from Speedway in general, what was you doing the whole time? Since I stopped Speedway, I worked at the family company.
Yeah. Then my dad and Eric, his brother, had an argument. All the members of the family that worked at the company were made to leave. Right. So me and my brother left. Eric's two kids left. They went on to new stuff. I went and worked for Luke Shan, who is Darren Shan's brother. Okay. I had to go start right from the very beginning as a site agent, where I had to get all the cars right the way through to the black card. to sort of work on this site that he was running at the time. That turned out that I was running, and we built a building with all the framework inside up to about £17 million build.
Bloody hell.
So that was a big step for me at the time. Also, during that time, I was running the Speedway with Connor and Sarah. So that was a busy time for us. Then that job finished, and I'd done my time. I was fed up getting up 6 o'clock in the morning, getting home at 6, half 6 at night. Then I went on to run the stadium. That went a bit wrong with the family between us. So I got excused from that, saying that they was not very happy with the way the stadium was being run. So they kicked me and John Cook out this year. So that went a bit nasty. So I've had to just sort that one out. So at the moment I'm not doing anything, and like everybody else with COVID and bits and pieces, there isn't that many jobs out there that are going for us all.
No, so that's a shame then. So you're not actually involved at all with the Eastbourne Stadium?
No, nothing at all.
Oh yeah.
Don't even know what's happening at the stadium. That's how bad it's got. So
that's mad.
It's crazy the way we've been treated, but that's obviously that's what the family have chosen. Haven't heard from the family for 3 and 4 months. So it's just a little bit strange, really.
Very strange. No Dugards at the Eastbourne. That's weird.
Well, that's it. Not at the moment.
Yeah. Hopefully that changes at some point.
Maybe.
Hopefully it does. The last one I got for you is what social medias are you on, or usernames if people want to follow you or get in touch with you? Or
I only have Twitter.
Yeah.
That was because Paul Goldsmith from IT First said, "Oh, every rider's got to get a Twitter and the promoter." So I got on that. The missus is on Facebook. Yep. She's on there all the time, but I refuse to have Facebook. Sometimes I would like to have Facebook just to catch up on stuff, but I spend a lot of time sort of backwards and forwards on Twitter and TikTok. I play around with, not just watching it just to see what's going along and around, but I spend a lot of time on them in amongst other stuff that I do within the house.
Is that just not keen on the social media side of things, or?
Yes and no. I would get wrapped up in something that I shouldn't really be wrapped up in. I would say something that would upset some people, and it's some of the things. It's just not worth the effort just to put in. Yeah. But no, I'm quite happy. If you go on my Twitter account, you'll see that I haven't put anything on there for a long time because actually nothing's come up. I just use it as a I get told enough of what's going on from people, but unfortunately, when you get told, you don't get the full story.
Yeah, that's the trouble. That's the thing with social media, and it can be good. You can do these memories and things like this, but can be bad as well if there's obviously problems going on and whatsoever, and people airing it and all that.
That's the problem. Is what we hear and what we see is completely different.
Yeah.
And both my kids, I've got to say, with Connor and Kelsey, they are both little storytellers.
Yeah.
So I tend to listen, but never really get the full story.
Yeah. Okay, well, you'll have to use the Twitter when you retweet this interview when it goes out.
No worries.
So, but at least you've got that anyway, so we can get in touch with you some way. Any shout-outs you want to make to anyone or anything before we go? Just
everyone that is following you, following me. Sounds a bit like a song, doesn't it? Anybody that's involved with the Speedway. It's a big tough year for everyone, so hopefully fingers crossed, and I'll see you all next year.
Absolute pleasure to speak to you, mate. Really cool to meet you. Trust me, you were a legend of Eastbourne and British Speedway, so it was a pleasure to watch your career and speak to you now as well.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Martin. Take it easy, mate.
Bye.
Top man, thank you.